Tim was a good man, kind, generous, always willing to lend a helping hand. He had a warmth that drew people in, a genuine smile that could brighten anyone's day. He believed in love, in the power of connection. He yearned for it, for someone to share his life with, someone to cherish. He longed for someone to share his hopes and dreams with, to walk hand in hand through life's journey. He knew what he had to offer: loyalty, compassion, and a love that ran deep. He just needed to find the one who would recognize and reciprocate those feelings. One Saturday night at a friend's house party, Tim saw her, Anne. She was radiant, her laughter echoing through the room, her eyes sparkling with life. He was drawn to her like a moth to a flame. He couldn't take his eyes off her. He gathered his courage and approached her. They talked for hours that night, their conversation flowing effortlessly. He learned that she was studying literature, loved classic novels, and dreamed of traveling the world. He found himself captivated by her passion, her intellect, and her infectious energy. As the night drew to a close, he knew he had to see her again. He asked for her number, his heart pounding in his chest. She smiled and agreed. Their first date was a simple affair, a walk in the park on a crisp autumn afternoon. The leaves crunched under their feet, the air filled with the sweet scent of decaying foliage. They talked about their families, their dreams, their fears. He listened intently, mesmerized by her every word. He felt a connection with her, a sense of familiarity he couldn't quite explain. It felt right being with her, like two pieces of a puzzle finally fitting together. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the pathway, he knew he was falling for her, hard. Their second date followed soon after, a cozy lunch at a quaint cafe, followed by a leisurely stroll along the lake. He brought her a single red rose, a symbol of his growing affection. She accepted it with a smile that sent butterflies fluttering in his stomach. He shared his hopes and dreams with her, his vulnerabilities laid bare. She listened with a gentle smile, her eyes reflecting the sunlight dancing on the water. He felt seen, understood, accepted. He thought foolishly perhaps that she felt it too, the spark between them, the undeniable connection. Their third date was a whirlwind of excitement and laughter, a day spent at a bustling theme park. He watched her, his heart overflowing with affection, as she shrieked with delight on roller coasters and giggled uncontrollably at the caricature artist's rendition of them. He cherished these moments, these glimpses into her carefree spirit. As the day drew to a close, he couldn't help but feel a pang of disappointment. He longed to see her again, to spend more time with her, to delve deeper into the labyrinth of her heart. He asked when he could see her again, his voice filled with anticipation. Her response was vague, non-committal. She'd let him know, she said. He clung to those words, even as a seed of doubt began to sprout in his chest. Days turned into a week morphed into two. The silence from her was deafening. He texted, hoping to catch her attention, to rekindle the spark he felt so strongly. Her replies were curt, delayed, often just a single emoji. He brushed it off, telling himself she was busy, that she had a life outside of him, but deep down a knot of anxiety began to tighten in his gut. He asked her out again, his hopes high, only to be met with excuses. "I'm swamped with work," she'd say, or "I have a family commitment." He understood, or at least he tried to. He didn't want to appear needy, clingy, but each excuse chipped away at his confidence, at the fragile hope he'd built around her. Finally, Anne ran out of excuses and agreed to meet up with Tim. His heart raced with anticipation, a flicker of hope igniting once more. He arrived early, rehearsing his words, planning how he would make her smile again. But when Anne walked in, something was different. Her eyes were distant, her smile absent. Tim complimented her, hoping to break the ice. She responded with a simple, "Okay." The date was a shadow of what he had dreamed. Anne's attention seemed elsewhere, her responses flat. She cut the date short, mentioning she had an early morning. Tim nodded, masking his disappointment with a weak smile. He watched her disappear into the night, realizing it was over. The final curtain had fallen on their brief story. Tim, feeling a mix of hope and anxiety, decides to text her. His fingers hover over the screen, crafting a message that feels both sincere and light-hearted. He hits send and waits, staring at his phone, watching the seconds turn into minutes. But the reply never comes. The silence is deafening, each passing moment amplifying the void between them. He checks his phone repeatedly, hoping for a response, but it's as if the universe itself is silent. As he sits in the dim glow of his room, the weight of reality starts to sink in. He feels a pang of sadness, a sense of loss. The realization hits him she might be moving on, and he must too. Pause 2ES. The echoes of what could have been haunt him, but he knows he can't stay trapped in the past. With a deep breath, Tim puts his phone down and looks out the window, the city lights flickering like distant stars. It's time to let go, to find closure in the silence. Pause 2ES. The end of one chapter marks the beginning of another, and though the future is uncertain, he knows he will find his way. The echoes of silence may linger, but they also pave the way for new beginnings. And in time, Tim hopes his heart will be open to love once more. Tim is in his room, sad and thinking about Anne. Every night he lays awake, missing her and wishing he could be with her again. There is a void in his heart. The days turn into nights and the nights into days, but the ache remains. He feels like he's drifting through life, a ghost of his former self. Pause 2S. But as the nights grow longer, a subtle shift begins to take place within him. One evening, as he stares at the ceiling, he realizes that the pain, while still present, has started to soften. He remembers the good times, the laughter, the shared dreams, and he smiles, even if just for a moment. It's in this quiet reflection that he begins to understand that healing isn't about forgetting, but about finding peace within the memories. The void in his heart, once a gaping chasm, starts to fill with acceptance and hope. He knows he won't be the same, but he also knows that he doesn't have to be. Life moves forward, and so must he. With each passing day, the dawn of healing grows brighter, illuminating a path he had once thought lost. And as he steps into this new chapter, he carries with him the lessons learned and the strength gained. Tim understands now that love, in all its forms, leaves an indelible mark. And while Anne may no longer be a part of his present, she will always be a cherished part of his past. With a final glance out the window, Tim takes a deep breath, ready to embrace whatever comes next. The dawn of healing has arrived, and with it the promise of new beginnings. The echoes of silence may linger, but they also pave the way for new beginnings, and in time, Tim hopes his heart will be open to love once more.